Alright guys, I think we managed to pull this out here. Caught them before they all went away. So this could be our last game. Hopefully these guys can keep things moving along. I know they've got better things to do. But we do have Seaweaver playing Stompy again. He is up 2-0 against Blippi. And on the other side, Blippi playing probably two of the better matchups that he had available playing Mono Black Control and Affinity, and both of those are pretty good against Stompy. He's just had some pretty terrible draws, I think, and it's going to end up being a mirror match. His last deck here is going to be Stompy, so we will see Stompy versus Stompy trying to keep himself off the all kill here. We will see if he can pull it off. Again, really kind of a cool thing, Blippi being, kind of blind going into this, so we'll have to see how familiar he is now that he has played Stompy, not himself, but he has played against Stompy in 2 matches, so you would think at least at some point you would kind of be able to clean some of the interactions and see how that plays out. So, quick ranker coming out here. To the Ranger. Kind of an interesting choice, I think, because of the fact that the Sentinel could simply chump block that. It looks like he will. The Ranger is actually, and again, this might just be the inexperience, but the Ranger can be a very integral part of the deck because of that ability to untap things, and more importantly, replay lands when you're running a very, very small land base in the first place. As you see here, out of his opponent, Seaweaver playing the Ranger, and then using that single land that he had anyways, he may have kept a 1-lander, and you can do that with the Ranger, and that's kind of one of the things that really manages to pull it out, and able to replay that Young Wolf with that 1 forest. Ranker coming back out again, going to be targeting up the Sentinel this time, going to put it up to a 4-2 Trampler. Can start doing some significant damage. Seaweaver might just choose to block here just to get that activation on the Young Wolf's Undying ability. And we'll see what goes on from there. So, Companion coming out. This is a very, not a very different, but is a significantly different version of Stompy. We see Seaweaver playing something a little bit new, a little bit more meta, and it's been a version that we've seen a little bit more these days, a little bit heavier on some of the answers for Mono Black, things like that, Root Waller and whatnot. Whereas the version Blippi's running is somewhere kind of in the middle, runs a little bit more aggressive creature base, trying to bring in things like the Companion and whatnot to try and bring a more aggressive base to it. The built-in trample is nice. The 3-2 body is nice. It looks like Seaweaver going to play maybe a little defensive, going to choose to block with all his creatures. All of his dying abilities are going to be triggered here. We'll see if Blippi has any. It does not look like he has any combat tricks up his sleeve. So Young Wolf coming back as that 2-2. Safehold Elite coming back at 1-1. And another Nettle Sentinel coming out for Blippi. Again, trying to keep that aggressive creature base alive. This is, again, also I can say this, I know I am familiar with the list. This is the Stompy list that I play. Whereas you see some of the things from Seaweaver getting more, I don't know if that's his main deck or sideboard. I didn't require a full deck list from these guys. But when you see the Mongrel combo with the Root Waller, that's definitely a very anti-mono black thing. And the list I've been running tends to be a little bit more along the lines of anti-Delver. And towards the end of the daily events there, we did see the uptick in Delver. And so this is what I was running. Runs the main deck Scattershot Archers, so you can deal with those fairies. And things like the Garruk's Companion actually provides you with a body that is a little bit bigger, maybe trying to draw to counterspell. Usually, depends on the player. You can play that and draw a counterspell that will allow you to get something more effective on the field. It's a nice body, don't get me wrong. I'm usually held up by that 2 green cost, but at the same time, it doesn't have some of the interaction abilities that you get off like the Ranger or the Sentinel, or even that added bonus that you get on the Pit Skulk. So, turn here to Sea Weaver, attacking through with the Young Wolf, maybe trying to draw out a block here from either of these guys from Blippi. I'm guessing there is a pump spell coming out for... No? Okay. Does not have a pump spell there. Maybe we have Hunger? Nope. Okay, just double Ranger. Okay, interesting. Maybe trying to bluff a little bit there from Sea Weaver, who is, again, on the verge of pulling out the first and maybe only all kill for this single elimination event. Finally hitting a second Forest Area on turn 5. Blippi had no plays. Continuing to be defensive, just keeping that Scattershot Archer back. And there's the Wild Mongrel. So at the very least those are, and I may have seen this earlier and just being caught up in playing 2 games at once, I have missed, but we have seen the Wild Mongrel here in a game 1, so we know that it's main deck. And I think it's a very interesting contrast between the two. The fact that Blippi's version is more anti-Delver, and this version is more anti-mono black. So something to keep in mind if you're planning on playing a Stompy deck. One of those things that you may want to consider is kind of what you expect to see more of, whether it's mono black or Delver. So second Mongrel coming out here. Blippi still not in a very good board state. Plays a Forest here, 3 cards in hand. Here he might have something available, might be a bit land flooded. Is going to make an attack through here, keeping in mind that he did play a Forest, so the landfall ability is activated. On the attack there is the Groundswell, kind of as expected off of that landfall. Putting Sea Weaver down to 5, but leaving Blippi with no blockers. Just yet, Skulk is going to come in with that Bloodthirst counter. Let's see what Sea Weaver can come up with. Does have Bone Splitter coming in. Does have options available to block both of those guys if he so chooses. 2 cards in hand means he also has things to throw away to the Mongrels. But he's still got a decent amount of life to chip away there. Break into an odd accent off of Blippi. So making the attack, Blippi debating over whether or not to throw out a block. Decides that he has enough of a barrier there, he can simply just take the life. And he's going to be able to untap that Mongrel, provides him with a pretty good blocker. So, Safe Hold Elite coming down for Blippi. Again, kind of building up a creature wall. It's a very interesting matchup when you get this mirror, because it comes down to who can better manipulate this creature wall, who has the ability to get kind of through the damage. So the first thing you have to look at is the trample. Right now, Blippi is winning there. He has the only creature with trample on the field. Next, you have to look at hand size for combat tricks. And Sea Weaver seems to have the advantage there. Whether or not he actually has combat tricks in his hand, 3 cards means that you have to be aware of it. 3 lands means, there's plenty of opportunity. You could see a Kicked Vines for that extra +4. Again, not great because he doesn't have trample, but that's kind of the second place you have to watch out for. Then you have to look for the evasion. Things in this particular matchup like the Ledge Walker that can get past those non-flying decks. That will be where you have to kind of keep an eye out for. Even, what you have to consider here, we do see a Kicked Vines coming out on this Wild Mongrel. I was going to say, even if you look at his hand with 3 cards and consider, go on a limb and say he's bluffing, he doesn't have a single pump spell there, what you have to keep in mind, we do see another pump there off the Slaughterhorn. What you do have to keep in mind is the fact that with the Wild Mongrel's ability to discard a card to increase its size, basically any card in hand is going to be a pump spell for that creature. And we're already looking at an 11 attack on this Mongrel, and because of the ability of the Rangers to return Forest, he's going to get that up to 12, and unless Blippi has a Fog of some sort, looks like Sea Weaver is going to be able to take down this first game. Yep. And he does. So he's up 1 game to none. This is the third round. We're playing 1v1 all kill here in the Academy Showcase. And Seaweaver currently in a pretty good position to take down the all kill in this first round. Already up on Blippi, 2-0, having beaten Mono Black Control and Affinity. So they're going to sideboarding here. Kind of interesting mirror matchup between the two decks. I imagine we would see a little bit less of, probably the archers, which are in there, obviously, for a much different matchup. But we could definitely see, I guess, fogs coming out. Usually you have Stompy, not a lot of great options in your sideboard to deal with other Stompy decks. Things like, I guess, Sabotage could be brought in simply for the fact that Seaweaver is running Bone Splitter, but usually the Bone Splitter is run as a singleton in these decks. And it doesn't have any enchantments to boost things up. It usually deals with just end of turn effects. So it could be interesting. I imagine, like I said, I know at least Blippi is running 2 copies of Moment's Peace. I would probably imagine seeing him bring those in. And if we do see Ledgewalkers out of Seaweaver, maybe the Vault Scourges would have been a nice addition as well. So pretty good start out of both these players. Young Wolf getting some damage done, but the Ranger, while it is not an aggressor, is going to provide that early combo ability, and Pit Skulk coming down with the Bloodthirst. So, passing the turn along here, Seaweaver going to attack through with the Ranger. If that doesn't scream combat trick, I don't know what does. Maybe we saw a bluff there out of him, but at the very least, that is a +1 damage bluff. So I'm okay with that. Blippi's going to have a pretty good attack here. Obviously, the Skulk ability keeping creatures from blocking it, that's going to be very hard to deal with. If Seaweaver wants to chump block that, he is going to have to discard cards down to his Mongrel. And unless there are lands, he's going to be in a not so great position to do so. So Skulk attacking through. There's going to be, again, no blocks out of Seaweaver unless he chooses to pump up his Wild Mongrel, and it looks like he does not. Simply going to go down to 15 here. So 6 cards in hand for Seaweaver. Throws out a Longbow. Okay, there's some interesting sideboard tech for you. Longbow will give him a chance to pick off a Young Wolf in response to, pumps. The Ranger is going to be affected by that, as well as the Elite once that persist ability goes into effect. So attack through with the Wild Mongrel here, simply going to meet a block out of the Young Wolf, which will simply come back, obviously, as the 2/2, thanks to the Undying ability. And a second Wild Mongrel coming out. So passing the turn back here to Blippi. Ooh, a second Ranker coming out. Now all of a sudden that Skulk is going to be nigh impossible to deal with. He again could choose to block and kill it off the Wild Mongrel, but in order to do so he needs to discard basically his entire hand to pump that up to a size where it is a legal blocker. And discarding your entire hand to get rid of that creature is not worth it. Really, I cannot see an opportunity to do that. The 2 Rankers would just come back. They would find their way onto other creatures and directly gain nothing there. Another attack through with the Wild Mongrel. He's trying to stay aggressive in the face of defeat. Going to be a block out of the Safehold Elite. Root Wallet is going to come in off the Madness cost. Let's move that out of the way there. So the Elite's going to die. It will come back at the very least. Root Wallet now on the field provides another blocker, but again, that ability on the Skulk is going to keep the damage coming through. Blippi might be able to snag the second game here. So, let's see on the attack. No, okay, is going to use the Vines, puts it up to 6, which is nice. That is, 2 mana is going to allow him to block that without having to sacrifice his entire hand. So a really nice, I don't know if that was top deck or where that fell into Seaweaver's strategy, but that definitely worked out in his favor. And now those rankers, however, are going to come back. Probably see a split out on those between two different guys, and Riverbow are coming down. This is like I said, this version of Stompy is more anti-blue. It's the one I personally run. But it does actually, I guess the Riverboa can do some work here. Without that Stompy ability for trample on the rankers and whatnot, this Riverboa can sit and block all day thanks to that regenerative ability. It can act as like a one creature fog if you just keep that one green open. So Wild Mongrel attacking through. Riverboa going to block. And we'll see the Regenerate Shield go onto the stack. I don't know if... I'm trying to play out the frame of thought here for Seaweaver. Not entirely sure, because you just had to throw away a card to keep your Mongrel alive on that attack. When it's not even a decent bluff, because I don't think he has anything that gives instant speed trample. So that regenerate ability just cancels it out. It just costs you basically a card on that attack. And it's going to equip the bow, which I get. You could... He has to do it now, though. Or not. I was going to say, he could use the bow there, do 1 damage to the boa. There would be a Regenerate Shield, then the Ranger would untap the Root Walla for a second activation of the Longbow to the bow and would kill it off, and he would have no mana available for regen. Clearly what Seaweaver wants out of that Longbow is other targets. I guess in response to the Ranker here, yeah, we will see the Root Walla killing off that young wolf. Unless, of course, Blippi has a pump spell, which it looks like he does. We know one card in his hand is... Okay. So it is Vines that will prevent... Is it hexproof? Give it +4/+4. And, no, I think he still has this. In response, no, he did not do it. Now see, that's, I think, a misplay on Seaweaver's part. In response to that Vines being on the stack, if he uses Ranger to untap the Root Wall, it deals 1 damage, Ranger untapped is 2 damage, then the young wolf dies before the Vines resolves, and before the Rankers, or the first Ranker at least, lands. I mean, you would have no land on the field, but being Stompy, you don't need... I think that was a bit of a misplay on his part. I don't think you need the land to do that. I mean, you know he would have a Ranker coming down, it would go onto something. And now you're going to just chump block with the Mongrel. I think that was definitely a misplay there by Seaweaver. And I don't know if that's, again, the result of him playing currently in the PE or not, but you know, I think that was definitely something that could have gone much better for him. Now he has to sit across from the 6/2 wolf with trample, and this is probably just going to be game over. I can't imagine at 1 life what he can do to keep himself in this. It's going to do 1 damage to the boa, which will regenerate. It's untapping. Going to do another damage to the boa to keep it off the field. But with that trample ability, I'm guessing he has a fog effect, because he's down to 1 life. So if he does not have a fog effect here, it's just game over. Skulk coming out. Still does not leave him with enough bodies on the field to prevent damage. At this point in time, you'd have to chump block with all your creatures. The The wolf would die, but the trample is still going to do the 1 damage. Even if he managed to do enough here on blockers, there's 2 other attackers, or Blippi just attacks through with everything. A little curious. Okay, hunger going to come down. Puts that skulk up to a 4/4. Still going to require 3 of his 4 creatures to block the young wolf on the attack. And it's... Oh no, okay, I see. So he's going to now use the ability on the Root Walla and the Ranger to kill that off. Okay. So a little confused as to where he was going with that. He is going to be able to now throw away all of his lands in favor of killing that off with the Root Walla. I do kind of question him doing that now as opposed to earlier, before the Rancor landed, before the Vines triggered. But, Blippi will now have 2 creatures left. 2 of the cards in his hand are going to be Rancors. We will probably see him... Oh, and a safe photo leap. Rancors will come out. If he puts them on 1 creature, that 4/4 Skulk is going to be a decent blocker. He does split them up, which is going to be, I think, game over. 1 block on the Skulk prevents it. And a double block, yeah, it's just going to concede there. So, had Blippi misplayed that and put both Rancors on, and I think that's, I guess, what Seaweaver was going for at the end there. Had he put both Rancors on the same creature, I think you've had a 5/1 double block, well, double block, single block, and that would have prevented all damage, and he would have been still not in a very good place because those Rancors are going to come back, and next turn would go on that elite. So I think Seaweaver cost himself that second game there on that 1 play. I think if in response to that Vines he had used the elves, the Rangers in the way that he ultimately did, it would have put him in a pretty good spot. So Blippi's still hanging on here. He has managed to, at least so far, take at least 1 game from Seaweaver in each of the matches. This time around, it looks like Seaweaver still just needs to win 1 game in order to pull this out and get the all kill here. Blippi needs to win this game in order to keep himself alive. It's going to come all down to this 1 game. This is the 3rd game of this match. It's a little bit more thought going into the sideboarding this time around. Last time both players were able to kind of get right into it. Let's see. Try and refresh this because sometimes with my computer it just doesn't show when it comes up. I'm very curious as to what they're going to come up with here. Let's see, where's our game? There we go. Yeah, that's what I thought. So both players did get right back into this. Looks like probably an early trade on those double sentinels. Young Wolf here for Seaweaver attacking through. If Blippi decides to block, it will come back bigger. In the current, I guess, game state, Blippi is sitting at an advantage because it's in hand. But both pretty evenly matched as far as this early game goes. This is a big one. Wolf untapping. Going to block here. Going to get it back as that 2/2. And it looks like he's actually going to take the chance and double block. A little surprised, that Ranger doing work all day. This time around, Seaweaver okay with throwing it away in favor of finishing off the Sentinel. Going to take the chance here, see what Blippi has as far as pump spells. When you have 4 cards in hand, you do expect there to be something. Looks like Groundswell will come down and make that guy bigger. At the very least, we are again going to see this young wolf come back. Oh, and a Vines and a Seaweaver. So a couple of early pumps from both guys. An attempt to really clear out their opposing board states. And we'll see perhaps a Vines out of Blippi. Another Groundswell. Okay. Nothing Sea Weaver can do about that at this point in time. We are now going to be looking at a pretty massive Nettle Sentinel, but at the very least, I mean, it gets these cards out of Blippi's hand. There is no trample, so he's going to throw away those 2 plus a Vines, but he's taking no damage off of that. So as scary as this Sentinel looks at 10-10, because that trample was not active, he's going to end up taking no damage there, and all he's managed to do is, throw away basically his Ranger in exchange for 2 pump spells, which is pretty okay. Young Wolf swinging through. Probably not going to see a block here out of Blippi. And we will see Safe Hold Elite coming down for Sea Weaver. Both of these players are going to run into that kind of common state with Stompy, where you kind of empty your hands and just sit back and draw in hopes of finding something. Do have to start being a little cautious as that progresses as to what your opponent may have. We see another River Boa coming down. And that will definitely, again, be troublesome, thanks to that simple regenerative ability. It's really looking for, I guess either player is really looking for a bit of trample to kind of keep this going. Couple of trades back and forth. Still waiting for either player to find some kind of advantage here. 2 land open, portraying perhaps Vines out of Blippi. A little bit of draw go coming out of both players. Attack through with the Rare Bow is going to be safe, obviously, because of that regenerative ability. Pit Skulk now can come down with that Bloodthirst, thanks to the added damage. Ooh, and a second one. So will be emptying his hand in favor of 2 guys is going to work out in his favor if his opponent cannot find something to keep on the board. Definitely running a little bit low on his own creature base here, but 3 cards in hand does kind of suggest combat tricks. We have actually seen several bluffs out of Sea Weaver earlier today, so it may not be uncommon. So there's Groundswell, going to keep the Wolf on the field. Does become kind of an interesting, maybe a bit of an edge to experience in here. When it comes down to this point where you have to determine whether you need to use your pump spells in an aggressive manner or a defensive manner. And Sea Weaver does have a decent amount of experience with Stompy, most often a Delver player. But we have seen him, I believe he is even currently playing Stompy in the current PE. So Skulk and Boa going through. And it looks like there will be a kicked Vines going onto that Skulk, making it a 6/6. Nothing Sea Weaver can do. Can chump the Boa, but he's got plenty of mana open to regenerate it. And Blippi's looking to be in a pretty good position to take this game down and steal the all-kill here from his opponent. So Sea Weaver, who's been beating up on him all day, basically with Stompy, is going to possibly lose to Stompy. I hope the irony is not lost on anyone there. Attack through. Another Vines coming out. So in response, Groundswell is going to make the Young Wolf 4/4. Not enough to... Oh, okay, a second one. I was going to say, not big enough to block that just yet. But it looks like he will trade the Young Wolf here for the Skulk. But it's still going to have to worry about this troublesome River Boa. Going down to 4. So on a 2-turn clock here for Sea Weaver, needs to find some kind of answer. That regen ability is going to be trouble all day long. what really works out kind of nicely here with the boa, that 2 toughness, the 2 power is enough to get through most of the creatures that you'll see at a Stompy that come in at 1 or 2 toughness. There is nothing beyond that. What he's going to need to keep something alive on this board against that river boa is going to be a Hunger of the Howpack, which is one of the few spells that provides not only a defensive pump, most of the things like Rancor, Bone Splitter, and whatnot provide an additional only to the attack, but he's going to need permanent counters so that it keeps a bigger toughness. Root Walla coming down, that could provide him with an option, but he needs to keep constant 2 mana open so that when he blocks the River Boa, he can pump up the Root Walla. And still, if Blippi manages to find a pump spell, then he's going to be able to, at the very least, kill off the Root Walla. And it looks like he is going to throw down a Vault Scourge here, which is probably going to take this game for him. Which is kind of an interesting choice bringing out of the sideboard there, but really, I guess, nice in this particular mirror. And especially as he's seen, like I said, he's been playing against Stompy all day, so he's familiar with the fact that his opponent here, Sea Weaver, is not running any kind of flyers. So River Boa is getting blocked by the Safehold Elite, will spend the 1 to regenerate it, is going to then pump the Root Walla to kill off the Sentinel. Still looking at basically a 2-turn clock here because of this Vault Scourge. And I don't know there's anything in his deck to deal with that. It is traditional for Stompy to run Hornet Sting. So I will assume that that is in his sideboard. And I hope for his sake he was running it. Oh, okay, that's right, he is running the Dryads. I forgot about that from earlier. So now you're looking at this Pit Skull can finally block this Vault Scourge. And Sea Weaver's in a decent place. We'll probably see an attack at a Blippi that is the Boa plus the Scourge. He has the regen ability. The Root Walla cannot be pumped up. So if he attacks from both of these, Sea Weaver can block one of them with the Skulk, and it's probably the Scourge. Either way, the Boa is going to live because it'll regenerate if he's blocked with the Skulk. And Sea Weaver doesn't have the mana to pump this up. So an attack through with the Boa is definitely a move here to make with the Scourge. I mean, Scourge will die, but it would be, I guess, basically a trade for the Scourge for the Root Walla. But it looks like Blippi doesn't want to do it. I think I personally would like to be more aggressive in that situation. I can definitely see why there. Now, it would come down to being a trade between the Vault Scourge and the Root Walla. And now he does have mana available to pump this Root Walla. So we're going to go into kind of a creature wall state here. Both players looking to see what, if anything, is going to be done. We're going to see a lot of kind of that draw go, play a creature go out of these two players. Basically, I mean, Sea Weaver's got no cards in hand, down to 2 life. Kind of looking for probably Blippi to find a trample spell, either player to find a pump spell, something that will obviously swing the advantage from one side or the other. Excuse me, the other. What we're seeing out of Sea Weaver so far is pretty good. A little bit troublesome with the added land drops. It looks like Blippi's going to swing with everything. This might be game. 3 cards in hand. If he has a pump spell, Sea Weaver can only block most of these creatures. So if Blippi has any pump spell, this is game over. And it looks like he does. Mutagenic Growth. So Blippi's going to take that down. He's going to prevent the all-kill. And Sea Weaver, who just needed to win 1 game, is now going to be forced to go to a 4th round. So we'll finally see for the first time one of the options for Sea Weaver against Stompy, and maybe Blippi could pull this out. This would be definitely crazy if Blippi can do the turnaround on this all kill. if he manages to win the next 2 matches with his Stompy deck against Sea Weaver, and I think he's got an okay chance. I mean, Sea Weaver, looking at what he's got available to him, it's definitely one of these that could be a terrible matchup for him. So we'll see. Let me clarify this real quick, asking what happens. What happens here is you keep the deck you just played with. Winner always keeps the deck. Loser switches to one that hasn't been played. Alright, so Blippi's going to come into this game with the Stompy deck, and we'll have to see what Sea Weaver has. I'm making a guess at what he's bringing, but I won't say anything just yet. As I expected, it will be Goblins out of Sea Weaver. So Goblins, very fast deck. It would be interesting to see if he's running kind of the more combo-ish. Answer in chat, what kind of tournament is this? This is a Pauper variant of the all-kill format, 1v1. For those of you who are not familiar with, watching and are not familiar with the all-kill format, the all-kill format is something popular in some of the other esports, more like StarCraft and whatnot, and so we at Mtgo Academy decided to give it a try here in Magic. So what ends up happening is both players have 3 decks. They have a pool of 3 decks. They sit down, blindly start with a deck, and the winner keeps the deck, and the loser has to choose one of the 3 decks that has not been eliminated. So if you lose that first round, you have 2 decks left to choose from. If you lose the second round, you have 1 deck left to choose from. They're played as matches in a best of 5, so you have to win 3 matches to pull out a win for the round. And if you go 3-0, like Sea Weaver started out, he won the first 2 rounds, and if he had won that 3rd round, that would be what is known as the all-kill. When you manage to beat out your opponent 3-0, you get that all-kill, and we're actually rewarding today extra points to someone who pulls that out. In our other game, Deluxe versus Shafa, that did not happen, and it looks like Blippi managed to save it here as well. So attack through here. Looks like we see some easy trades here out of Sea Weaver, but that is going to benefit Blippi as he gets that hunger and makes that Pit Skulk bigger. And we'll have to see, you know, some of these guys having this 2 toughness is not so terrible for Goblins to get around. Having that 4 toughness, all of a sudden it's a little bit more crazy. So we see a kicked Bushwhacker, a big swing here from Sea Weaver. We will see definitely a single block coming out of that Skulk on the big guy, and going down to 10 on Blippi. So we'll have to see how aggressive he wants to get, whether or not he wants to chance the fact that we could see another Bushwhacker coming out of Sea Weaver. Only 2 cards in hand, finds itself in a very similar state as Stompy. Down goes that infamous River Boa. Kind of at that same edge as Stompy, where you dump your hand really fast and there's not a lot of ways to draw cards. Pit Skulk swinging through for 4, looks like it will get pumped up with a Groundswell for 8, bringing Sea Weaver down to 12, but leaving Blippi with 2 blockers. Okay, Skulk coming down as well, so he's going to have 3 blockers. No regen on that River Bow, but it may not matter at this point in time. Sea Weaver is going to pay the Echo cost on that War Marshal. 2 mana available. Does he have another Bushwhacker? I'm not sure even if he does, it matters. He's not going to be able to do the same damage that he was able to do that first attack, thanks to the fact that you know, Blippi's got so many extra blockers now. So, going to be kind of a tough place for him to win. I think Stompy has a bit of an advantage here because of the fact that these Skulks get that extra ability. You know, Goblins are very good at creating a swarm of creatures. If he can find himself a point where he builds up enough of a wall and then gets a Bushwhacker, that he can do that 10 damage more than, you know, Blippi has blockers. I mean, here Blippi's in a situation he'll probably continue to attack with this 4/4 Skulk, but he may not want to actually swing in with the other one, despite the fact that he doesn't have a blocker for it, simply because it's going to leave him more open to these big attacks. You know, right now he's leaving himself with only 2 blockers, but it looks like he does have a pump spell, probably a Vines, the way he's tapping out. And we will see 10 damage, so Seaweaver now going down to 2. This is kind of an all-in here for Blippi. Going down to 2, Seaweaver going to need something big to win. Another Bushwhacker, I think, might do it for him because, you know, like I said, 2 blockers on the field, but he only needs to get through 5 2/2 creatures to win this. Seaweaver doing a bit of a debate over whether or not to kill off this War Marshal on the Echo cost. Kind of the nice thing about the Bushwhacker, if you have it, that kicker gives creatures haste, so you could let that sacrifice and not worry about it, and he does actually have the Bushwhacker. So not going to take a chance on that anyway. He's going to swing through, and it looks like, I'm pretty sure he is going to have enough to finish this off. Right? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, yep. So he's going to take this first game, and God, I guess at the very least these games will be fast between these two. I kind of did not expect that the way Blippi started. I thought that Seaweaver was definitely going to be in a bit of a tough spot, but he managed to hit those double kicks and get that extra damage throw on the Bushwhackers, which is pretty crazy. We'll have to go into sideboarding here. Some options for Blippi. Obviously, he's got the Moment's Peace we talked about last game. I know he is running also Hornet Stings if he so desired. Sorry. He could choose to bring in also the Vault Scourges simply for that extra life gain. I was talking earlier, I don't know if I finished my thought, but I'm not sure. Again, I did not require deck lists out of these guys, just deck types. So I'm not entirely sure whether or not Seaweaver is playing the combo version of Stompy. I'm sorry, God. The combo version of Goblins. It's been playing Stompy all day, finally tripped me up on that. But the combo version runs a little bit more heavy on... oh god, I'm going to blank on its name right now. Alright, bear with me, I'm going to look it up, because I am totally blanking on this. There's the little guy who was printed recently. Enters the battlefield in red. He's not actually a goblin, but has been run. Foundry Street Denizen is obviously part of it. So you run a combination of that guy. Okay. And the other dude. Bear with me here. So I'm going to find it because it's going to kill me if I don't remember it. And I know people will never hear the end of it if I said it wrong, so... Where are you, dude? I know he's here somewhere. There he is. The Kurin Striker. So both of these guys are usually ran in addition to like the War Marshals and whatnot. And this extra ability to pump up on the entering of another creature makes them really kind of tough to deal with. You can get some really big guys really fast. And I don't know if that is exactly what Seaweaver is running, or if he's running a more traditional version of Goblins here. So it looks like early Lightning Bolt met an early Sentinel. And now we're going to see a young wolf coming out of Blippi. Kind of nice, because of the fact that for both sides, I mean, you can block it as goblins, but at the same time, it's going to come back bigger. So Sparksmith coming out, okay. So we are seeing a version like this. It's almost like a suicide goblins, a little bit more. I think some people have called it like red control, because it uses a little bit more in the way of burn spells. It uses the Sparksmith. I kind of call it suicide goblins just because of the fact that the ability on the Sparksmith, for those of you who are not familiar, deals damage to itself. I'm sorry, to yourself, in addition to whatever your target is. So, passing along to Blippi, looks like Seaweaver probably getting held up a little bit. He is, I think, into the third round of the PE. So we're giving them a little leeway here. We do have Deluxe. They finished up their match really fast. Deluxe versus Shafa. He is also playing in the PE, but currently waiting for this particular round to end between these two players. So Blippi probably going to see an attack here, most likely not going to want to block with that Sparksmith. You want it to be able to do some work. At the very least, it's going to do 1 damage. Could kill off that young wolf. And there's a mutagenic growth. Probably going to see a skulk here. Yep. I feel like watch so much Stompy today, you can just predict what's going to happen really easily. Another mountain coming down for Seaweaver. Goblins is another deck like Stompy that doesn't really want to have a lot of lands, so 3 is kind of a top end. We see there a Magma Spray. I don't know if that is sideboard or main, but that is one of those tech items that we see out of this version of Goblins. Like I said, it is running a little bit more as a red control, so you get to see, things like that, and that is going to kind of lock down the young wolf really well. It looks like Blippi is in a pretty poor spot, being stuck with only 1 land. And on the other side, his opponent, Seaweaver, keeps running into lands. So, I guess it's kind of better to be flooded than screwed here. Damn, Blippi says in chat, I gambled on the 2nd land by now. It looks like that land gamble is not playing out just the way he wanted. Here he is moving to turn 5, see if he found that land. And it looks like he did not. So this might be game over here. This will be the last one. If Seaweaver wins this, this will be the last game against Blippi. He will take down this round and move on from there. Turn 6, does he have a land? No, but it looks like he has a creature. So Ranger's kind of nice there. Unfortunately, it doesn't really prove effective until next turn. He can untap and replay the forest, but it still puts him at only 1 land. On the following turn, it would be better. Obviously, because he would be able to tap the green, then return it, then replay it for a 2nd land. But hey, there you go. He's at least going to put out a Ranker. Unfortunately, though, it's almost a wasted effort because the Sparksmith is simply going to be able to kill that off. Seaweaver goes to 14. No, he's not even going to bother using the Sparksmith to do so. He's going to use the Flame Slash to get that off the board. And down comes Goblin Sledder, which means he can now attack with the Conscripts. It looks like Blippi is going to go down to 5. And a Lightning Bolt, and a Lightning Bolt. Okay, so Seaweaver, pulling this down 2-0 versus Stompy, does finally win this match 3-1. And we're finally done the first round. So we will be back. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to get the other 2 guys set up. It will be Seaweaver versus Deluxe. And we're going to take a quick break, see where those guys are at currently in the PE, and get that back going. So congratulations to those 2 for moving on to our finals. Alright guys, sorry about the wait, but we are playing with 2 guys in the finals here who did end up being the ones who were playing in the PE as well, and that's okay. We said that was going to work out. But we are finally here in the finals. Deluxe has moved on against Seaweaver. So these 2 players, again, for those of you who aren't familiar with the format, you do get basically a restart now. Previously when you're in every round, winner moves on and you get decks that are eliminated. But when you move on to the next round, it's all reset. So we have Deluxe here is going to be playing Elves in the first match against Seaweaver, who is running what I call, or what he called, kind of gimped Delver. And the reason it was gimped is because I take it he's decided to sell off his copies of Daze and Gush. So, and I guess in anticipation of the upcoming, Mirrodin drafts that we will get, and that means the prices will drop. So he did decide to run a version without those. And it looks like he's getting a pretty aggressive start, getting that Delver flipped, swinging with double Cloud of Fey, also getting double mutagenic growth on that, and landing a counterspell on the Well-Wisher. So already sitting with 5 damage coming through the air. Something that I don't think elves can really deal with in the early game. Some versions do run the kind of web, right, Spider Silk Armor, which will give them some options, but what we are going to see is at least the Well-Wishers keeping him in it. So 5 coming through the air, but he's going to be able to... Oh, there is a ninja. Okay, there's some extra benefit, looking like 6 damage going to come through. A little added draw. Still haven't found a 3rd land though, but it is still kind of early. The unfortunate part is the fact that his opponent here is going to be able to go up 5 life. So the 6 damage that he just did is going to be completely negated. And there is that Well-Wisher, putting him up to 10. He's going to be able to swing through. Kind of an interesting thing in this particular matchup. I think as the Delver player, what you really want to be able to do is target down the Well-Wishers with your counter spells. Oh, and there's fire alarms going off in the background, so hopefully you can't hear those. But what you really want to do is be able to use counter spells, keep these Well-Wishers off the board. Other things, not as important. Obviously the Huntmaster is a very strong creature. And there's some great interactions here with the Rangers and whatnot. But they're not going to be as important as stuff like the Well-Wisher and the Timberwatch Elf, just because of the fact that it keeps it in it. As you see here, Seaweaver got a really aggressive start. He could keep the pressure on early, and would have Deluxe down a significant amount of life if it were not for this Well-Wisher. So the fact that he managed to land that first Well-Wisher is going to be incredibly, incredibly powerful. You see here he's already looking at to be at a point in time where he can go up another 7 life. And in the end, Seaweaver as Delver is not really going to be able to outpace that. Being Delver, you can interact with things, most importantly on the stack. Obviously the same way with any counter magic. So, by being able to have a creature land on the field, he's putting himself in a pretty good position. There's obviously still going to be, I assume that Seaweaver still has that's weird, still has available to him, sorry, it just threw me off, snaps. It looks like Seaweaver conceded, but I got conceded the match. So let's see what happened there, because that was the first game. Seaweaver decided to concede, but I don't know if he accidentally conceded the match instead of just the game. Waiting to see what they say. I can't imagine that he would just straight up concede match against elves. I don't think it's a particularly terrible matchup. So bear with me 1 second while I try to figure out if that was a mistake. Or what is going on here. So waiting to hear from Seaweaver as to why he decided to concede match there as opposed to just concede game. So I didn't think he was in a terrible spot. Obviously that game I think was pretty much lost, and I think he was definitely in the right to concede it there. Not really waste any time on the clock. I don't know if he's running a version, talking about interaction on the field, I don't know if he still has his snaps. Like I said, I know he did get rid of Gush and Daze. Interesting, not getting a response from him, but did get rid of Gush and Daze, but I don't know if he got rid of Snap as well. I imagine he did not. One of the things that you can see sometimes from Delver, I don't think Seaweaver's version usually runs it. There's also Piracy Charm that would provide a decent option to interact with the Well-Wisher once it's actually on the battlefield. Sorry for those of you just tuning in, just watching. What you're going to be seeing here is I'm just tabbing through the replay while I try and figure out what happened with this first game. They're playing first game of the finals, Delver versus Elves, and we got a concede here. That was big. I mean, really great attack through there, running, this version. Alright, so I don't know what's happening. Seaweaver said he needs a minute. So we will take, I guess, a short minute to figure out what's going on here, and we'll be right back. Alright, so we are back. In that last game we saw, and we're going to count it ultimately, Delver versus Deluxe, who was playing Elves. Excuse me, so Delver versus Elves, Seaweaver basically lost the first game, had to concede out, but ended up conceding the match, and what happened there, I guess, real life takes over. He had something he had to address real quick, and he was going to time out anyway, so he decided to just concede match and not waste anyone's time. So we're going to move into the second game here. Deluxe does get awarded the win for that, and he's going to move on here with Elves. And he's going to be playing against Seaweaver, who is running Goblins this time around. And we saw Goblins pull out the win there against Blippi, who was starting to make a comeback. Basically took away the all-kill from Seaweaver, and it looks like he is running the combo version, as we do see the Denizen come down, or at least as combo as it gets with Denizen. I don't know if he's running the other guy just yet. But we'll have to see. Kind of a historical matchup here. Elves versus Goblins. I don't think it gets any more flavorful than that. It's an ongoing battle we have seen in the ranks of Magic from many, many years. Swing through with everything here for Seaweaver. Probably going to see a block coming out of Deluxe on one of these 1/1s like the Sledder. If he blocks the Sledder, it's going to require the sacrifice of 2 creatures in order to kill off the Huntmaster, whereas if you try to block something else, the Sledder is not going to work as well, and he is just going to let that die. But Deluxe going down to 10, we saw earlier in the match against Blippi how fast and easy it can be for Goblins to come up with that 10 damage. But just as easily, this Huntmaster is going to start generating these 1/1 elf tokens, and seeing just what can come out of that. You see he's already building up a pretty big wall. One of the things that we saw in the Stompy matchup was the fact that it was a little slower to put creatures out, and so Stompy was not able to keep all the blockers back while doing damage at the same time. What we can see here from Elves is Elf really easily can build up this creature-based Huntmaster in play, and generating those tokens. It's going to be able to have a significant number of blockers while at the same time still being able to attack through. And Seaweaver's probably wondering now whether or not he should have made the sacrifice to kill off that Huntmaster. Probably going to be looking for things like, I was going to say Sparksmith, or any of his burn spells to really put that in its place. Now with the Sparksmith on the table, he can start clearing this out. It is going to cost him quite a bit of life to do so. But Deluxe has basically emptied his hand unless he finds a distant melody. He's going to be, and could we have it? Looks like he is going to have the distant melody. So great draw here for Deluxe. Going to put his hand back up to 9, which is unfortunate for Seaweaver with an empty hand. Next turn can finally start picking things off. Probably going to start with that Huntmaster and Sparksmith. But Deluxe basically able to drop his hand, and now he's going to be able to refill it and start replaying things. Thanks to these Birchlore Rangers, he's going to be able to generate the mana and start putting things out. So Sentinel's going to come down as long as Well-Wisher also. This is going to get out of hand, real fast. We're already looking at, with that coming into play, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 elves on the field. So it's 15 life a turn. There's no way Goblins can put up that kind of damage. Goblins is fast, but what it does is obviously it's a weenie strategy, so it's going to be able to come through and deal the damage fast. It is not going to be able to deal a heavy amount of damage slowly through a long, drawn-out game. So Deluxe is going to take that down pretty handily in this classic matchup of Elves versus Goblins. We're going to move on to our second game here. See what, if anything, Seaweaver had. They didn't spend much time in sideboarding, so I'm not sure what, if anything, both of these players have. Usually there are some options, at least for Goblins, when it comes to additional burn spells, something he would probably bring in to deal with these creatures. Mulgerator coming down, pretty good first turn play. Cannot really complain about that. Passing along the turn here. Arsonist, nice little sacrifice combo. Going to sack that off to get rid of the Mystic and attack through for 2. Fortunately, it's only a temporary and end of turn ability, but still having the ability to finish off that Mystic is going to keep Deluxe back a little bit. But he does, find that Evolving Wilds, is going to find the blue mana, and we may see a distant melody in our future. Birchlore Rangers coming in, probably not going to be a blocker at this point in time. You see Sparksmith coming right back down. Another Ranger coming in. Different type this time. Same effect. Generating land. Next turn that Sparksmith's going to be online. Deluxe really needs to... kind of the ideal thing you saw last game is the Sparksmith came in so late that this ability really had no impact on the game. This time around, he got it in relatively early. It's going to be able to actually start dealing with these creatures before things get out of hand. We can generate some land here, put some creatures down, but the Sparksmith is going to clear them out. Probably see next turn it kill off the Well-Wisher after the attack, just on the off chance he decides to block with it. Always do it after the attack, and a Flame Slash killing off one of the Rangers. Again, another thing that has to go. And they're good move calling the Birch Lure over the Aquarion Rangers, because this, setting you back on land, not so difficult in this Elves deck, but still at the same time, the big mana generation is going to come off that Birch Lure Rangers instead. And we did see the Sparksmith killing off the Well-Wisher there, and this is one of those games where I think maybe Sea Weaver got the play early, and put himself in a really good spot. We saw last game, Deluxe really got the strong start, and I think here, getting that early Sparksmith in play, he's going to do a lot of damage to himself, which Deluxe may be able to capitalize on. But at the same time, sorry, Deluxe said back in the second chat, kind of sidetracked me. So he can do a little bit of damage here in conjunction with the Sparksmith doing self damage, and may be able to capitalize there. But at the same time, the Sparksmith is going to be able to pick off this Timberwatch Elf. And there's not going to be a whole bunch of stuff coming through this way. I do see that happen. Ideally, if you draw into the burn spells, those are what you want to use to kill things off first, because of the fact that the Sparksmith does damage to you as well as the creature. And you don't have a ton of control over it. It's going to do 3. It's not, do X. It does the number of goblins that are in play. So at this point in time, it's doing 3 to the goblin and 3 to itself. I'm sorry, 3 to the elf and 3 to itself. So you're going to take 3, go down to 12. There's really just nothing you can do about that at this point. But at the same time, it's getting those creatures off the board. It's kind of what you need to do to win this game. There's a kicked Bushwhacker. Attacking through with everything. Still not going to be enough to win this just yet, but still, again, in a pretty good position. Deluxe with only 1 utility elf in play, and the Sparksmith is open and available to kill things off. One of the benefits that we're seeing here for Sea Weaver, despite the fact that the Sparksmith does damage to him as well as a creature, is going to be this fact that he has all of these sacrifice outlets. So it gives him a chance to kind of reduce and control the number of goblins that he has on the field. Whereas Elves wants to just put a whole bunch out so that you get these Well-Wishers and can do really stupid amounts of life gain. The Sparksmith, in a similar way, wants to do a stupid amount of damage, but it doesn't want to do so much damage that you just suicide out. So you need to be aware of that. You need to be aware of the count, and keep in mind, obviously, always that the Sparksmith is doing that damage to you as well as the creature. And find opportunities and times to sacrifice things off and keep actually your creature base at a large number, but still a manageable number. So you can really, keep that all under control. So, we are, again, like I said, we're in the finals now, Deluxe versus Sea Weaver. What we are going to see is both these players are currently playing in the PE, and that was a little bit of bad timing by me. But, being December and the holidays being what they are, don't have a lot of opportunity to get these in. So both these players are going to play a little slow. Hopefully, those of you who are watching this live, bear with us as we continue on this journey, but I guarantee you it will be worth it. I know the players are having a lot of fun. We did have a bit of a rocky start, but we'll have to see. I think they were starting round 4? Maybe just finishing round 4. They were at the start of one of the rounds. So at this point in time, they usually expect kind of the end of the round is where things would slow up because they're like, okay, I don't want to use up my clock. Or maybe they're at a very integral part of their current matchup. But we'll have to see. I know these two guys have been playing hard, and I do appreciate their time and the patience of those watching as well. Oh, okay. Looking over at chat, Seaweaver says he's had to drop. So, Deluxe is still in it. Unfortunately, Seaweaver did not go so well. Well, sorry about that, and good luck onward for Deluxe. I know he's going to be kind of back in this game as soon as possible. Kind of the nice thing about decks like Elves and Goblins, UR Fiend, actually probably more Pauper decks than you would imagine, is that they're not slow. We've seen some pretty fast games out of this. Even Delver can manage to pull off some fast wins here and there. So that is somewhat beneficial. So as soon as he gets past whatever hump he is dealing with, I don't even know. I'm just kind of assuming Deluxe is running Hexproof in the current PE. I'm not entirely sure. Well, I guess while we're waiting, better time than any to plug everything. Thanks, of course, goes out to the sponsors, mtgoacademy.com. Great place to find all the information you ever wanted as far as limited and constructed play, articles, videos, and of course all of your card needs for Mtgo. Recently, some really great stuff coming out of Simon had a really great piece talking about ROE draft primers. You get a lot of great stuff, Marshall, with the limited resources. Even if you're not there for the Pauper content, I do definitely encourage people to venture out and take a look at some of the other stuff. You might find a new format that you are interested in. As far as what I've got going on, you're going to see an article from me this week. Again, if you're watching live. Most likely talking about the all-kill format. I've talked to a lot of people. We did this with the JSTL, which was the team league I ran. And people seemed to like it, and we were trying something a little bit different this time around, going from a team format to a single player format. So you would have, in the team format, we had players who, each player would have a single deck, and it worked kind of the same way. This time around, we have single players who run 3 decks, and that was kind of an attempt to balance out some of the logistical issues we found with the league. So we're seeing just how well this is going to play out. Obviously, one of the concerns that keeps coming up is the time investment, and I'm sure you can see why. Hopefully Deluxe is not just time out of this one. This would be like the worst finals ever. I think if I were him, I would just simply concede out of this game. I don't think he's got really any outs. 4 cards in hand, though, we never know what he can come up with. But I think having that Sparksmith on the field, Seaweaver's in a pretty good control state of this board. Alright. I apologize for all the dead air and whatnot. We are just waiting on Deluxe to kind of catch up with where he is in the PE. Obviously, that's something they pay into, and it's definitely better to make sure you have that going for this. We do, in the end, just appreciate the time that these guys have taken to join us here today. Yeah, as I've heard from Seaweaver and otherwise, double queuing is not something that's usually encouraged. Today we don't care. We had a little bit of trouble getting started, so they're doing me a favor to help out. I am not concerned over it at all. appreciate the time that they're taking to help us out here. I don't know what time Deluxe. Let's see, what time did Deluxe go AFK? I guess the last move was 2:10. So it's been 8 minutes. So he is, what, got like 1 to 2 minutes before he just times out of this match. It's alright. Ultimately, this was just put together so we could, obviously encourage some people to play the Pauper format. It's been having a little bit of trouble recently. And more importantly, wanted to just do an experiment here, see how things would play out. Oh, and he's back. See how things would play out with this all-kill format as 1v1. That's kind of the great thing about the showcase. We started doing this on a monthly basis. And I think January will be the first non-Pauper month for events for us. But we still have to work that out. You can follow me on Twitter, Mtgo, JustSin, and you'll find all the latest updates on that. But what the showcase has done for us, it's really a great opportunity for us to experiment with formats, try out some cool new things, maybe introduce some people to some cool new formats. And it's not serious. It is a player-run event. Okay. So Weaver said he had him take the action so he wouldn't automatically lose. Appreciate it. But it's completely casual. I do definitely appreciate it. We topped out at 30 viewers earlier, which is cool. Glad people want to join and participate. There is a great opportunity for a lot of cool stuff to come out, and I know there's been some kind of tough times here for Pauper, and so it's just everything's kind of up in the air. Now they've taken daily events back from us. We're just starting. This is the first weekend of the new premiere events for Pauper. And, they've been firing. It looks like it's been a little bit shaky from what I've seen as far as attendance for those, which is to be expected. That is a lot of time to devote to that. And, I guess it's good that they fire, but I personally find it's, one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't. They fire, and it basically encourages Wizards and tells them that it's a good idea that the premiere events are worthwhile to at least some degree. And that, players are okay with the loss of daily events. But at the same time, if people don't show up and they don't fire, then we may see a loss of support for Pauper altogether, which I don't think anyone wants. So we're just going to power through, do our best to encourage the format, and I definitely encourage people to try out all the player run events. Sometimes they will fit your schedule a lot easier than what you'll see out of the premiere events time-wise. And I know there is Classic Tuesdays, and you can definitely join in those. So I think Deluxe is finally back. We'll see if we get things moving along, finish this game, which I basically feel is over anyways. Because we'll see Weaver basically having complete board control, can continue to clear out blockers thanks to the Sparksmith, and that'll remove these Rangers. Deluxe says, sorry, MOCS last second entry, so I'm triple queuing. Excellent. He's just going to concede out here. I think, Sparksmith would have cleared off one with the Rangers, and with the kick on the Bushwhacker there, that brings that out. So see Weaver tying up this match 1-1, and they go to sideboarding once again. And they will go into this is only the second matchup here for this finals round. So we could be in for a long one. Hopefully triple queuing doesn't make this too terrible, or we may just have to drop the stream for the sake of my sanity and everyone else's. But these guys going back into sideboarding. So I wish there was kind of a refresh button, because sometimes my game will show sideboarding for a while they're not actually sideboarding. So we'll just go back. Nope, okay. Alright, getting ahead of myself. Yeah, if this continues to take a long time, we'll just we'll drop the stream. We'll thank everyone for coming. Get on with it. I think we're getting basically what we need, seeing what the level of interest is on this particular format, how people feel about it. Which is pretty cool. So let's try this one last time, and we may just drop this. Alright, this is what we're going to do. For those few of you who are still watching live, I'm just going to end the stream here. It is a little premature, but we are going to be playing with Alexu's triple queuing, unfortunately, and that is dragging down the time, and I don't feel like wasting anyone else's time on this. I want to thank all the players for coming out. Shafa, Blippy, who isn't even a Pauper player, Seaweaver, and Deluxe helped me out big time. We had a very rocky start, but that's okay. Got what we needed. Hopefully those who watched today enjoyed it. And we will, again, for those of you watching live, see this in my article this week on Thursday. For information about January's Academy Showcase event, we will find it on, obviously the best place is Twitter, at Mtgo JustSin, and you can hear about it there. It will be probably our first non-Pauper Academy Showcase, which is great, so hopefully we can get people around to doing that. Big thanks goes out as well to our sponsors, mtgoacademy.com. Check them out there for articles, videos, and all the best information that you can find on MTGO, as well as all of your card needs. You can find them at YouTube and MTGO Academy, and also Twitter at MTGO Academy. So again, thanks to everyone. If you want to find out, I am going to end the stream here. If you want to find out how things went with this particular finals here, like I said, I'm going to cut it short just because of the fact that Deluxe is triple queuing, and it's going to waste a whole bunch of time. So if you want to find out, you can follow me on Twitter or check my Twitter, and I will keep everyone updated. Or again, my article this week at mtgoacademy.com. So thank you guys very much. Enjoy the holidays for everyone, and I will catch you guys in January.